Hey, what's up guys, Aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2019 career mode, episode number 26 today for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But heading into Baku then, unfortunately, we have one failure from our two upgrades we bought last episode. We've got the engine power, we just don't have the ERS upgrade, which is a bit of a shame, but the lesser of two evils really. I'd rather have the grunt, kind of brute engine power and not have the ERS. Just means you're going to have to flick through and really manage that once again in this Grand Prix. But even with that minor upgrade, Ferrari and Red Bull looking strong with upgrades as well as Mercedes there. You can see all pretty much with the same trajectory on the R&D graph. So I'm not too sure what that's going to mean for our pace in the race, but it is Azerbaijan, you know, a lot of straights, and our car is very slippery in a straight line. So I feel like it could be kind of like almost last season at the Italian Grand Prix, where we actually have a decent amount of pace just because purely we're very good on every single straight. And of course, Baku being Baku, you can just never count on it being a very normal Grand Prix. Some things could crop up, so I'm still confident we can do some good work here. If you look at the gap from Mercedes to Ferrari relative to our gap to Red Bull and Ferrari, it's pretty much nothing actually, so we're still very much on pace there. And speaking about other teams, Renault with a massive upgrade into this Grand Prix. Looks like maybe at least two majors and one ultimate upgrade. So Renault have climbed from the worst team on the grid on paper to the fourth worst, right in the middle basically. They're right there with McLaren now, chasing after them, and so the bottom team now is Haas. So Renault already the effect of Lucas Weber maybe coming into play with some rapid upgrades, so I'm curious to see how that's actually going to shape up, because that's going to be a really interesting development race between Williams, McLaren and Renault, it seems. And then it looks like, I'm already guessing, Toro Rosso, Racing Point and Haas maybe battling kind of a little bit further down on the tail end of the midfield. But let's get to Saturday then and just see how we do over one lap pace before we get into Sunday.
The circuit has rubbed in with practice, but this is still going to be a difficult session for our drivers as they fight for pole position. Welcome to qualifying here in Azerbaijan. When it comes to getting lap time out of this circuit, it's traditionally been about maximising top speed. Do you simply remove as much downforce as possible, hang on in the corners and max out down the straights?
Top speed is a key factor for this circuit. Even if you can achieve the same lap time as someone running less wing than you, chances are you'll find overtaking difficult if you have too much drag.
Right, so diving into our first final lap in Q1 then, and trying to get through hopefully on just one set of tyres. And like I mentioned, hopefully the car has some decent pace, because every single straight we should be pretty good compared to Ferrari and Red Bull. Especially Red Bull, we've seen already that we're very good in a straight line there, and basically just a case of trying to keep it as clean as we can around Azerbaijan in terms of not getting too much on the curbs, although saying that ironically on the exit there, getting right over the curbs, it doesn't affect us too much on that specific one, to be honest, unlike real life kind of in a way. And then obviously we get through to the back straight and the absolute motorway, and we just sit here, and hopefully this is where our engine just pulls and pulls and our car is slippery as ever, and we can gain some time on people, not just in qualifying but also come race day in the slipstream. But across the line there, matching Raikkonen it would seem, and looking pretty decent actually. Raikkonen P5 there, myself P7, so overall pace right now, obviously it's Q1, early days, you can't ever really tell fully, but you know, it's looking okay. We're right up there still, and Raikkonen doing some good work. We need to try and obviously find some time a little bit to him, but that's always the case with me in Q1. I'm never as on it as possible compared to kind of in Q2 and then especially Q3 is where I like to bring out finally my best lap most of the time obviously. But we now move into Q2 then, a little bit of a lock up on that front right that almost sends us into the wall actually. We were very lucky to actually not go into that there with the understeer we would have got, and again lock up on the left, so it's not been the tidiest of laps there in the second sector, but hopefully it's just enough to get us through into Q3 on this same set, on this one set of tyres, and so we'll have two sets available for Q3 if we need it, as we open DRS in, running to the line once again and hoping we can get into that top 10 across the line. And it's going to be P4 there ahead of Verstappen. By the end of it, it is P5, but a massive shock outing for Kimi Raikkonen. What on earth went on there? Look at his lap time there, nowhere near what he did in Q1, so I don't know if he hit traffic or major mistakes on his 2 or 1 lap in Q2, don't know what went on there, but that's really unfortunate. It does happen sometimes though. Obviously it's happened to me before being caught out in qualifying, and so that's just one of those things where now I'm the only one flying the flag in Q3 in the top 10 shootout for Alfa Romeo Racing there. So very unfortunate for Kimi. He had very good pace. It would seem like he would have qualified at least in the top 6, I would say. So he's going to have a major fight back on his hands in the Grand Prix come Sunday from P15 there. But obviously, like I said, we just got to do the job now and concentrate on ourselves. So we go through on the flying lap in Q3. Then obviously a lot of people have already set their times. I'm actually in the middle of the session here in a clean bit of track there, opening DRS, getting a bit of a toe off Verstappen there, just a tiny one, and across the line it's P4 at the moment, splitting the two Ferraris. By the end of the session though, I don't run again and we come in P5 then, so a Noah's Ark situation, 2x2 Mercedes, Ferrari, and then myself. Then you got Ricciardo doing a great job ahead of both Red Bull cars. So what did I say? You know, because of the long straights, even a car like the Williams car, who has a much bigger gulf and gap in the R&D chart to Red Bull than I did with Alfa Romeo, and Ricciardo is able to get ahead of both Red Bull cars. So really the R&D chart doesn't always paint the picture fully. We've always known that for the last 2 games really. You know, that the R&D chart's only kind of a little kind of guesstimate of where everything is. So come race day, you could see Ricciardo be very strong, and hopefully we are very strong and we can try and challenge the Ferrari cars potentially, but we won't know until we get there. So let's go to the grid and see how we do.
Good afternoon and welcome to Baku. This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. So let's find out what lies in store for us this year. It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Baku City Circuit then, an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Now, I want to talk to you about Valtteri Bottas. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, the engineer, Daniel Ricciardo, and Verstappen, Perez, Butler, Weber, and Valtteri Bottas, Hülkenberg, Stroll, Kevin Magnussen, and Raikkonen, Grosjean, Norris, Pierre Gasly, and Antonio Giovinazzi. Kubica and Alexander Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So even before the Grand Prix began, we've got a bit of good news there. Valtteri Bottas has some sort of penalty, so he's down to P10, and so everyone moves up the order in the top 10. So we're already a little bit closer to maybe that elusive podium in P4. The two Ferraris now 2 and 3. The strategy will be a one-stop, soft to the hard tyres, and I think most people will go with that. It'd really be a case of the nuance of when you make the pit stop. Can you get a good undercut or an overcut? What's the traffic light? And that's going to be very much up in the air. So let's just get into this then. As we go to 5 red lights for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix here in Baku, here from P4 on the grid. The lights are out and we're underway, and it's a big puff of smoke for Sebastian Vettel in second place, but that gives him the traction, it would seem, as he's down the inside for P1. We defend against Ricciardo, who's a very fast starter in the Williams. So what did I say about the Williams being pretty handy around here? But we go and send it round the outside of Leclerc, and we just about graze the wall and get through up into P3. Fantastic start for us. Meanwhile, Vettel and Hamilton still fight for first place there. Vettel getting back in the slipstream of Hamilton. He's on the outside. Hamilton defends the inside line, and Vettel's made a bit more contact with him, but he's got it. He's got it to the inside, and he's got the lead. The Ferrari leads the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Hamilton down to P2. Could this be the race where Hamilton finally does not win a Grand Prix in Season 2 of F1 2019 career mode? We'll have to see. It looks like maybe not on lap number 2. Obviously, this slipstream is going to be so powerful, so I'm not going to be surprised we see this back and forth thing, as Hamilton now is down the inside of Vettel for P1, but great to see this fight right in front of us for first place, and we're actually very close to it now. You can see we're right there, P3. We're getting away from Leclerc, and we're so close to, you know, getting into the middle of the battle for P1. Absolutely excellent stuff there. Meanwhile, in the background, you can see Ricciardo's still retaining that position ahead of both Red Bull cars and a McLaren there. So Ricciardo doing good job and showing how important the straight line speed really is around this circuit. Is now Hamilton hit the wall a little bit, that was on the left-hand side, so I don't know if he's got any damage, but Vettel maintains the lead for now. But those two are squabbling so hard and fast there. A bit more contact made between them, and Hamilton's able to get the advantage now. And so it looks like might have it, but Vettel comes back down the inside. I really can't keep track of it there. They're just side by side every single corner. corner. It's so hard to tell which way it will go. This time, though, it's gone the way of Hamilton, and Vettel has to settle down for P2, but we're literally right up his gearbox now. Literally tapped his gearbox into that right-hander before the castle left, and right up the hill we go into the sunlight. But as we move on, the end of lap number 3 onto 4, and we've got a bit of a run here on Vettel, you know, with DRS Alt available now on this lap. We're going to be pulling and getting closer and closer to that rear end of that Ferrari car, and he's not doing the same to Hamilton. And look at that, we set the fast lap of the Grand Prix there, the amount of speed we gained in the last sector with that slipstream there, so very powerful indeed. Leclerc, though, is not hanging about as well, and he's keeping me honest, actually, because we actually dropped him in the first 2 laps, but he's been closing back up to us. You can see on the mini-map, it pretty much is a bit of a fight between now, it would seem, the 4 of us, 2 Ferraris, myself and Hamilton, and then there's a much bigger gap then to Ricciardo in that fight with the Red Bull. So we are in this kind of top league, which is really good to see, but Hamilton comes back with the fast lap of the Grand Prix. Doesn't matter for us, though, because we're still pressurising Vettel, and this is the closest we've ever got to him, and he's a lot further away from Hamilton that he can't get too much of a valuable toe off our fellow Brit, and we actually go for the undercut down the inside. It's the switchback, effectively, because Vettel went over the bumps there. We're able to cut in tighter and get a great exit, and we're past him with DRS as well, up into P2 then of the Grand Prix. Absolutely amazing stuff this is we're witnessing, but as we go through the last sector, the tyre wear really kicks in, and Vettel sends one to the inside. Massive dive bomb from him, and the rear tyres of mine are really screaming, so that's why I was so cautious on the braking for that, because that corner, if you get it wrong, you're in the wall for sure. The Vettel locks up on the front left and gives us a little bit of room. We're going to try and hustle and harry him as we go through the last sector now on towards lap number 6. Leclerc closing up as well, though, so we might be in a bit of an awkward Ferrari sandwich here, but the tyres are going off so badly right now. You know what, as we pull to the left, I'm thinking, actually, you know what, let's just pull in right now for the pit stop, as we're going to overtake Vettel effectively for a split second and then come straight in. The 2 Ferraris are going to go do battle. Leclerc maybe trying to send one to the inside of Vettel to the inside of turn 1, but we're just going to nip in to the inside, let them fight, and we're going to come in now and try and get an undercut here, because the pace was good, the pace was there. If we're in the slipstream of the Ferrari cars, we do have the pace to keep up with them. Obviously, it's a different story if we're not in the slipstream, because I think that's pretty much, like I said, been saying, it's a big part of this track, and for our pace versus the AI, is if we can just get that slipstream constantly every single lap. So that'll be the deal breaker for us of how well we do in this Grand Prix. But for now, you've got to say, first stint done and over with, and we were very much legitly fighting for a podium there. So could this be the race we do it? Could this be it? Let's see. We're on a set of hard tyres now, and we're going to try and get through this traffic as quickly as we can. Down the inside of Norris, he hits the curb quite awkwardly, so it's a very nice, actually, choreographed move there down the inside of Lando up into P18 then, and now chasing after Giovinazzi as we move on to the end of the lap then through that left-hander where we're pressurising Vettel previously. We're going to get a bit aggressive on the curb and try and cut to the left-hand side. We have done so, and so through the S section, it's going to be a very nice move to the inside. They have to trust Giovinazzi, though, that he gets off the throttle, basically, and doesn't commit to it and sends it to the inside, because otherwise that's just going to end up with both of us in the wall, basically. And so we're up into P17 then, thankfully. We're chasing after now a pack that's tail-ended by Robert Kubica in the Renault. Ferrari cars yet to pit, it would seem, on the top left and on the mini-map there, and there's a massive fight going on here. Look at that, Kubica, Albon, Butler, I would say as well as some other cars there of, I'm trying to look there, you've got Grosjean and the other Haas, and then a McLaren, I think that is, of Sergio Perez potentially. But here we go for a double pass maybe on Albon and Kubica. Lovely stuff on the left-hand side. DRS open, got a great exit on the inside, tighter line, and we made it working. Oh, bit of contact there. It's not Perez, sorry, it's my bad. It's Pierre Gasly, that is, a long way back from his teammate Verstappen, fighting Butler. That's a bit awkward there, and there was a bit of damage, actually. There was a bit of cascade element broken off there, so that's a bit controversial, really. Gasly in the Red Bull versus the junior sister team Toro Rosso, and a bit of contact made whilst they're battling as we try and overtake Grosjean there, and finding him as a bit of a mobile chicane blockade there. We send one to the inside of not only him, but also Gasly, because if you saw there on the left-hand side, there was a bit of damage to his front wing, so there was good confidence in myself to actually do that job and outbrake Gasly as well, because I knew he was going to be slow off that damage he sustained with that contact with Butler, whatever it was. And speaking of Butler now, for the third race in a row, we see him on track. We're going to go for an overtake. This one might be a little bit easier, though, on the left-hand side. He's got damage as well on his front wing. So both of those guys, Butler and Gasly, come off worse in that fight, basically. Don't do themselves, either of themselves, any favours, basically. And so we go on and overtake with that entire gaggle and getting some clean air now. But as we come through the first turn, Ricciardo has just made a pit stop. He's coming out right behind us. But Verstappen is ahead of us now. Remember, Verstappen was quite some way behind us. So I don't know how that's actually happened, you know. I I don't feel like I lost that much time in that traffic, but maybe with the clean air, also Vettel was able just to ramp up the engine modes or whatever, because Vettel and Verstappen are ahead of us now. Vettel catching up to some traffic, the same with Verstappen, so that could help us out, but they've jumped us, basically, so we've lost that massively in that pit stop, actually, which is really unfortunate. So that might jeopardise our entire plan of fighting for the very top spots here in this race. But here we go, and overtake Verstappen and alter a Racing Point car in one foul swoop in a straight line. Down the inside we go, and we've got Hülkenberg and Verstappen, I think that was, because we got Lance Stroll, the other Racing Point car, ahead of us then as we move on to lap number 10, and Vettel is only just ahead of him. So can we try and just overtake Stroll very quickly at the end of lap 10 onto lap 11, and then move on to focusing onto Sebastian Vettel? We've got clean air after Stroll, and so we just got to get the hammer down, get the head down, and try and chase after and make up this time we've lost effectively. Here we go, easy move done on lap 10 onto lap 11, and now we chase after Vettel and see what we can do. But Leclerc's jumped Vettel as well, so I don't know, a bit of a weird one there. Looks like the overcut's actually been the one to go for here at Azerbaijan, it would seem. But with that small amount of clean air, we're able to show our true pace then in the car away from that traffic. So maybe it really was all that traffic that slowed us down that much then. I just didn't realise, because we power past Sebastian Vettel then, and we're going to go ahead and set the fast lap of the Grand Prix again in this GP. So it seems like myself and Hamilton are trading times here, with the engine working very well on the back of our car. That upgrade coming in very useful, obviously. But at the same time, I also was confused at why Vettel himself was just slow as well. And then I got a team radio coming in.
Some information on Vettel. They have some kind of mechanical problem.
So confirmation there, Sebastian Vettel has an actual mechanical failure. So that's maybe why he was so slow on that lap, and I gained so much time on him personally. And that's why we're also getting away from him on this lap as we move on to lap 13. And we're pulling a gap. Raikkonen is up ahead of us in P5. He's on mediums though. Obviously he started in P15, so he has to make a massive recovery drive. He's pitting now for a set of hard tyres, I would say. So I think he's doing quite well there to be up in P5 on mediums at this stage of the Grand Prix. So let's keep an eye on that at the end of the Grand Prix and the race results and see where he comes, because from P15 that's a mighty impressive drive. But we move on then to lap 17, quite a few laps later actually in the grand scheme of things, 4 whole laps later, and we're now catching up to Leclerc. You can see the gap has grown massively to Vettel relative to how close it was at the very start of the Grand Prix because of that mechanical issue that he's dealing with there. So Vettel at the moment limping around, but Leclerc's definitely not limping, but we've had some good pace here, and in DRS with the slipstream able to get past him for P2 in this Grand Prix once again. So looking very, very good. A fast lap of the Grand Prix set there, and so the car is working really well. Like I said, you know, the straight line speed advantage working out so much well. It's reminding me exactly of the Italian Grand Prix last season, where the car was actually really competitive and felt really good, just because every single straight we're gaining time in the corners, not losing too much time. Leclerc does come back at us, so we squeeze him on the left, go back to racing line, and we're very aggressively going towards the left-hand side, but leave him just about enough room there with that lock-up. That was me getting a little bit worried that he was going to pinch me and we're going to have some sort of collision, but alas, thankfully not so, and so we remain in P2 as we move on now to the second last lap of the Grand Prix, lap 25 then. Hamilton still in a very dominant P1, so it will be probably 4 out of 4 for Lewis here in season 2 of this career mode, but Leclerc is still keeping us honest on towards going to the last lap of the Grand Prix through the castle section. This entire time hasn't left me alone there. You can see him in the mirrors, so just keeping me ticking over. I have to keep on concentrating of trying to save ERS when we need to in sector 2, using it in sectors 1 and 3, and just trying to maintain this position here. We don't have too much fuel to play with, so the ERS has been very crucial to stay ahead of Leclerc. And Vettel, meanwhile, I believe his issue did get sorted eventually, but then he ended up making a pit stop potentially. I don't know, but he's massively fallen away basically on the minimap, so I don't know what's actually gone on with him. But as we come through then the last few corners, Lewis Hamilton wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But let's get very, very excited, because we're going to come through. Leclerc is going to slipstream us and maybe try and spoil the party. Yellow flags are out though, so he won't overtake us, and that will confirm to us we will come through for our very first podium in the Alfa Romeo Racing car, P2 at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
Brilliant job, mate. That's a fantastic podium. Super driving, really strong pace. Very, very happy.
Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
everything went your way today. It looked like you had a really good strategy for the race.
Yeah, everything went our way today. The car was working well, and that was ultimately the case of just driving hard and fast.
You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled.
Yeah, the team are thrilled, but I'm sure you guys will be hopefully as well thrilled that we finally broke the duck and finally got the podium eventually here.
You scraped the walls a few times. Were you struggling for grip?
And with this one, just going to go no comment. Yes, we brushed the walls a few times, but no issue for me, but just no comment.
Appreciate your time.
So there we have it, guys, our first podium, and what timing, because I remember I said at the start of this season, if we were not fighting for podiums and we didn't get on the podium probably by the first contract renegotiation point, which is this episode, because you renegotiate everything after Azerbaijan for the first time this season, I was going to strongly consider other options, other teams maybe, but this has maybe just sealed me, and I think, for now, we'll stay put. We've got this podium. Let's try and build on it, hopefully, for now, for the rest of the season, and see what comes up. We've got the European portion starting now. It could be quite a good one there. Raikkonen also, I must say, recovered very well to P6, so showed, actually, the raw pace of the car was just there, because he got from P15 to P5, so definitely probably the driver of the day, I would say, Kimi, really. Yeah, I got the podium, but his recovery drive was probably more impressive, to be fair, looking at it there. Vettel, in the end, didn't pit, it didn't look like, but he just fell off massively then in P4 with that issue we had. So in the Drivers' Championship then, we're piling on some pressure maybe a little bit to Valtteri Bottas and maintaining that lead ahead of the two Ferrari cars. And the Constructors, we're maintaining that P2 ahead of Ferrari and Red Bull. So all round, really good stuff there. Can't complain. And yeah, like I said, probably that race, that podium has probably just kept me at this team, I would say, because I was deadly serious about choosing other teams maybe if we weren't fighting and getting a podium by this fourth race, because I feel like we should have been there already basically by the end of the last season. And yeah, I mean, it just wasn't looking amazing at the very start there with how the R&D chart fell with the R&D reset over Season 1 to Season 2. But there you go. So now we do go ahead and renegotiate, and instead, I'm now renegotiating a great contract with Alfa Romeo Racing there. You can see we've gone for level 3 on everything, and I think I deserve that. I think my value to the team is big enough to deserve level 3 on everything, have the first driver status, and lo and behold, thankfully, the team agree with me, and we sign an absolute banging contract with Alfa Romeo. So that's going to help the R&D hopefully quite a fair bit in terms of the rate we get points, and also doing simultaneous upgrades, and also the pit stop efficiency in the race as well could help things out a little bit here and there. But first and foremost, on the R&D chart, unfortunately, we have to go ahead and repurchase that failed ERS upgrade on the engine side of things. So that'll be a bit of a cheaper upgrade, but obviously that's still money that I didn't want to necessarily spend on that part, basically. I wanted to move on to other things. We've got that major coming on the aero side of things, on the drag reduction, so that's kind of fine for me. So really, I wanted to kind of go on for more engine power, because obviously we've kind of sussed out on this year's game, the engine power does seem to mean quite a fair bit, and it was quite powerful around Azerbaijan. So we're going to go ahead and purchase that next major engine power upgrade, pure engine power, and that'll come in 2 episodes time, so that'll be quite good for us as well. So a few upgrades to look forward to into the European portion of the season, and great timing, like I said, with the podium as we go into that phase of the season. So guys, if you did enjoy that episode, be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're on your own here to subscribe for weekly full-on content, let's build on this podium and let's go forward here. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.